Either the foundational mathematical laws that govern the universe and reality as we know it were somehow altered, in which case you're not actually watching this video because everything has ceased to exist, or you simply counted wrong. Hey everyone, welcome to the business side, where I share insight into how to start and run your own leather business. Today's video is kind of a follow-up to the last one where I showed you how to price your work. We're going to focus specifically on determining the variable cost of the leather that you are going to put into a particular project, okay? On the spreadsheet that I gave you in the last video, and I will probably go ahead and link the spreadsheet again to the bottom of this one in case you didn't get it there. But in order to determine the leather cost, you need to know two things. First is the price per square foot of the leather, and then the number of square feet that you're actually using for your particular project. So I am going to share my computer screen with you, and first we're going to discuss how to get the price per square foot and how leather is sold on a couple different websites so that you can see exactly what's going on. I'll show you calculations, and then at the end of the video I'll kind of have a summary of the different formulas and equations that we use throughout this. I'll try to make it as simple as possible, but let's go. There are two different ways that leather companies price their leather when you go to buy them. So I've got Springfield Leather Company pulled up here, and for a veg tan double shoulder 8 to 9 ounce, you can see a price of $6. Now notice it says sold by the square foot. So you could order 1 square foot of this, you could order 30 square feet of this. It's going to be $6 per square foot. If this is how your leather company that you're dealing with sells the leather, it's super simple. The price per square foot is right there. But if we go over to a similar item on Tandy's website, all right, veg tan double shoulder 8 to 9 ounce, you just see a flat price here of $90. So how do you determine the price per square foot? It is not $90 per square feet. You actually have to scroll down and you will see that for these hides right here, average size 9 to 13 square feet. If you're not in the US, the meters are right here. You can go through the same process I'm about to show you to figure out the number that you need to actually calculate the price per square foot. But these two numbers, this range, doesn't matter what site you're looking at, Weaver, Tandy, whatever else, if they give you an average size of a hide, you have to find out the average of this range of numbers. So we've got 9 and 13. Some of you may be able to look at this and immediately know, oh yeah, 11 square feet. That's the average. For folks who that is not readily apparent to, that's okay. Here's how you figure that out. So here I have my calculator set up. It is $90 for this particular hide. We know that these hides are in a range of 9 to 13 square feet. So what you do to figure out the exact number, like the average of each hide, you take these two numbers, 9 and 13, and you simply add them together. 9 plus 13, that equals 22. Now, in order to get the average, you divide by 2. All right, since we added two numbers together to get this, that's why we're dividing by 2, and that'll give you your average. Quick check of your math here. Whenever you're calculating an average, just to make sure you've done it correctly, your average should fall somewhere in between these two numbers that you used to calculate it. If it's too small or too large, all right, so if it was less than 9 or higher than 13, you've done something wrong. But since we got 11, that falls right in between. That is the average square footage that you can expect to get if you buy one of these. So once you know that one number, the average square footage, you just take this price, I'm just going to say $90, and you're going to divide it by that average square footage, 11, and that equals $8.18, 1818 forever. So if I were you, I would either just round up to $8.25 or maybe $8.50. Always round up, never round down. Don't round down to $8. You're going to be losing money there. The reason you may want to round up to the nearest quarter or $half is because when you go to add this to your cart, and you check out and you get it shipped to your house, there's going to be a shipping charge with that, probably, depending on how much you order. There's also going to be some taxes that get added in, and that's true whether you walk into a Tandy store or you order online. There's going to be some taxes there. So use that total to get an exact dollar amount. So whatever that is, if I ordered this and had it shipped to me with taxes, it's probably going to be closer to about $105, $110. Whatever that number is, that's what I'd put in place of the 90 right here, and still divide it by 11, and then I'd get a slightly different number. All right, so either you are going to be charged per square foot, all right, and I would advise you to take into account tax and shipping here also. Whatever your total is, just divide by the number of square feet that you actually bought, and you can get your exact price per square foot. Or if someone like Tandy sells it as just per hide, you can do the calculations I just showed you. Take the total price, divide it by the average square footage, and you will find your price per square foot. All right, let's go into the workshop, and I will show you how to figure out the number of square feet of leather that you were using for your project. So this is a square foot of leather. In fact, if I put this down, you can see 12 inches and 12 inches. This is a square foot. Now, for illustrative purposes, let's bring this edge around and let's remove the actual square foot. And you'll see that within a square foot, there is a grid here on my mat. And these squares represent square inches. There are in fact 144 of these square inches in a square foot. If you do not believe me, simply pause the video and count for yourself. So to illustrate what we're going to do, we are actually going to be finding the square footage of this coaster set. All right, there's the stand. We are in the Memphis area, so these are something locally that we make. First things first, let me get these lined up, and because this is riveted in place and I cannot take this apart, we're going to use the pattern pieces for the stand. So they are right here. Here's for the bottom part. This is simply a cutout for my logo stamp, so I know where to position that. Shout out Leather Stamp Maker, they do great work. The next part is the top part, actually bends up right there. Now, whenever we go to measure stuff, yes, there is an exact formula to figure out the area of this circle here. But when you're trying to figure out the square footage of your patterns, it doesn't matter if there's circles, if there's curves, if it's all rectangles or squares, it doesn't matter. You always measure in squares and rectangles. Reason why is, well, there's really two reasons. One, it's easier, okay? You don't have to deal with infinite irrational numbers like pi or calculus to figure out the area under a curve. So just for the sake of doing the math, it is easier there. The second reason why you always measure in squares or rectangles and not circles, not curves, is because there's waste. Waste is going to be result of two different things. Either it's going to be because of your pattern or because of the hide itself. So what I mean by that is waste, this area between your pattern pieces, all right, that is not used. Just because, yeah, it's just left over. It doesn't matter how I arrange these 6 items, there's going to be bits of it that cannot be used. So that waste comes as a result of the shape of your pattern. The other one, like I said, is your hide. If you look here, there is a scar, some type of cut on this hide. So if something like that occurred in the middle of my hide, all right, let's just say it was right there, and I want to cut out another circle, well, I can't. I now have to work around that and use some other part of the hide, and I waste that area. I can't even use it for the next set. It is completely wasted, okay? So the reason why you do include that waste is because you paid for it. Even though this is not usable in your project, you paid for it. Whether you paid by square foot or the entire side, you paid for it. Scratches, holes, blemishes, and all. You paid for it, and you need to be compensated for that. There's nothing wrong with it. So you always do squares and rectangles. It's easier, and there's always waste. So in order to figure this out, we are actually going to be doing a little bit of math, multiplying each of these items to figure out actually the square inches of our coasters, of the bottom part of the stand, the top part. We'll add it up, and then we are dividing by 144. Keep in mind, there are 144 of these little guys in a square foot, and that'll give us our total here. All right, so let's move some stuff around, get a calculator here, and get to work. I'm gonna need a pen for my card. All right, I happen to know that this particular coaster is a 4-inch diameter circle, so it's 4 inches wide, 4 inches tall. So that is fairly easy. 4 times 4, that equals 16. However, there are 4 of them in the whole set, so I need to multiply by another 4, and that gets me 64. So let's put that here, 64 square inches. Now, the bottom part of my stand is this piece. When I measure this, I see it is actually 6 inches long, and it is, I believe, 3 1/4 inches tall here. So I'm gonna enter 3.25 times 6. That gets me 19 and a half. 19.5. And then for the top piece, it should be the same width, 3 1/4, but this time it is 7 inches long. So 3.25 times 7 should give me 22.75. Then I just add these up, 22.75, which is already here, so plus 19.5 plus 64, and that equals 106 1/4. So 106.25. Then I divide that by 144. Divided by 144 equals 0.73784722 blah blah blah. If this were me, I would round up to 0.75. Always round up, never round down. So 0.75 square feet, so 3/4, 3/4 of a square foot. That's how much leather it takes to make my coasters with the stand. Okay, so that is how I recommend that you actually calculate the square footage. Put a ruler on it, put it on your mat, get out a calculator, you can use your phone, figure out the square footage, and then once you have the price per square foot and the square footage, plug that into the spreadsheet and you will get the cost of your leather. All right, just to recap, when you are determining the price per square foot for the leather that you're going to buy, take your total cost, including the cost of the leather, the taxes, the shipping, whatever you pay for it, and simply divide it by the average square footage. Then to figure out the actual square footage of leather that you're using, don't worry about curves or circles or anything like that. Measure the area of every item, every piece of your pattern, as though it is a square or a rectangle, length times width. That will get you the number of square inches. Take the total number of square inches of all of your pieces and divide by 144. That'll get you square feet. Once you have the price per square foot and the number of square feet, plug those two values into the spreadsheet and you will get the total cost for the leather that you use for each of your projects. So I hope this information has been useful to you. Feel free to go back and replay certain parts, pause it if you need more info about things. And if you appreciate the work that we are doing and the content that we are putting out, please like the video, please share it with someone, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We could really use you. Thank you so much for joining me for the business side of things at Justin Nazarene Leather Company. Have a great day. Bye now. All right, if you were one of the people that actually paused the video to count to see if there were actually 144 square inches in a square foot and you didn't get 144, there's really two possibilities. Either the foundational mathematical laws that govern the universe and reality as we know it were somehow altered, in which case you're not actually watching this video because everything has ceased to exist, or you simply counted wrong. Sorry.